Track 21, Unit 9, Listening, Exercise 3.
So, Farhad, let's talk about your presentation. You've done a rough outline, so let's go over it, and then you can go away and write it all up.
Sure.
I asked you to choose a topic related to water, and you've chosen desalination, removing salt from seawater. Now, why did you choose that?
Well, I come from the United Arab Emirates, and we have the world's largest desalination plant.
Right, that's very relevant, and I think you should include that, your personal reasons at the start.
Say why I decided on this topic.
Yes, just give a sentence or two. That'll do.
Okay. I thought I should keep the introduction brief.
Yes, but you can say why you like the topic. It's a good choice of topic, very interesting, and then I can follow the introduction easily.
Okay.
Now let's go on to the historical background.
I want to make it clear that seawater purification isn't a new idea.
No, indeed, that's a good point to make.
So I'm going to describe some of the older methods from the past.
I got a bit lost reading your notes here.
Is it too long?
Well, I think the real problem is that the information isn't in any logical order.
I see. Well, it is just notes.
Well, you start in the 18th century, then move to the present day, then go back to the 20th century.
So it needs reorganizing.
Yes, that would help.
Okay, I'll make it clearer. What about the description of the process?
Yes, that looks pretty good to me. But we'll go over it in more detail in a moment.
Okay, I may need to cut it down.
Yes, definitely. It goes on for a long time and gets a bit technical.
Sure. Okay. After the process, I want to talk about the pros and cons of desalination, because that seems to be the big debate.
I totally agree. But you need to sort this section out.
Yes, it is a bit confusing.
I think you should present the main points one at a time.
Okay. What, the advantages and disadvantages?
Yes, and talk about each one individually.
Okay, rather than presenting them all together.
It's hard for your listeners to take in like that. It's all a bit unclear at the moment.
I see.
So, lastly, you conclude that we need to look for alternative ways to remove salt from seawater.
Well, yes. Do you think that's the wrong conclusion?
No, not at all. However, you should tell your audience exactly why you think this.
I will, in the previous section.
But you need to summarize the reasons again in the final part of your presentation.
Oh, I see. Right. I'll mention them briefly then.
Just a list will do. That'll make the conclusion a better length as well.
Okay. Thanks very much, Dr. Tyler.
Track 22, Unit 9, Listening, Exercise 6.
Okay, so let's have a closer look at the section on the process of desalination.
Well, I just need to outline the principle of the process, don't I?
Yes. You need to explain first what desalination means.
Well, I want to start by referring to a natural form of desalination. And to say that a seabird filters salt out of seawater in its throat.
Okay, that's interesting. So they just spit the salt out, do they?
Yes.
Right, that's a good introduction. Then you can go on to describe the mechanical process.
Yes, well, the first stage is the collection. It involves a large plant that collects the water. Actually, it goes through a canal, and that passes the water into the plant, which treats it,
Removes all the rubbish.
Yes.
So the treatment's the second stage. What happens next?
Well, the next stage is that it goes through a lot of pipes until it reaches the point where the salt is removed.
Okay. So that's the next point on your chart.
Yes. I can talk about this quite a lot. The salts separated from fresh water.
Right. The water passes through a membrane.
Not exactly. That's the whole thing. The seawater has to be forced, pumped, and a lot of pressure is involved.
You need to make that point. Explain that the water doesn't go freely.
No, because the salt is heavy. This is the really expensive part of the process.
Okay. So after that, what happens?
Well, there's some more treatment after the high-pressure filtering process, but eventually the system produces fresh water.
Okay. It might be good to mention what's left over.
Salt. And that's a really big problem.
Where does it go?
After the desalination process, the substance that remains, it's called brine, it's a very salty substance and it goes back, usually into the sea. It's not good for fish, though. It damages marine life.
Well, you can discuss that in the next section of your presentation.
Yeah. So, anyway, a lot of the fresh water that's produced is used for human consumption.
Yes, and...
It's also used for irrigation, for watering farmland.
Great. Well, you've mentioned some of the disadvantages there.
Track 23. Unit 9. Speaking. Exercises 3 and 4.
I'm going to talk about an activity that I enjoy doing, and that's fishing. Actually, I think someone said that fishing's the most popular hobby in the world. So, how do I get ready? Well, if you go fishing, then first you have to get up early. Then you need to pack all your equipment, and that includes a long, thin stick. I think it's called a rod, a box or tin to put the fish in, and some the little things that you use to attract the fish. Also, you need to take some warm clothes, perhaps, and lastly, you need something to drink and maybe a sandwich because you can get hungry. There are lots of places where you can go fishing. Some people go to rivers, but I live near the beach, so I fish in a small yellow, type of boat. I wear a life jacket because I usually row the boat out to sea, about 1 kilometer, so people can't always see me. Fishing is really quite simple. You just sit and wait. I love it because it's so peaceful. It's perfect. But also it's very exciting when you catch something. I usually get these, what are they called? Long black and white fish. All in all, it's a wonderful activity. It's like a sport, but you're just competing with yourself or with the natural world.
Track 24. Unit 9. Speaking. Exercise 7.
What water sports are popular among young people?
I think there are many water sports that are popular. Near beach resorts, for example, the popular sports include things like surfing, sailing, water skiing. Other sports that young people enjoy are, let me think, canoeing, rowing perhaps, and, the main one's swimming, because you can do that in a pool anywhere.
How are sports like surfing and swimming different?
Well, there are several ways. For a start, you need a lot of waves to surf, whereas swimmers usually prefer calm water. Also, you need more equipment to surf. You know, a board and maybe a wetsuit. Yeah, and lastly, swimming's cheaper than surfing.
Why do some people not enjoy water sports?
I think it depends on the person, but the most important reason is probably that they can't swim. They don't like it if it's deep, and their feet don't touch the bottom. Even some people who can swim are afraid of water. Another possibility is that these days the sea can be very polluted and they may be afraid of getting ill.
Track 25. Unit 9. Pronunciation. Exercise 1.
The main one's swimming, because you can do that in a pool anywhere.
Track 26. Unit 9. Pronunciation. Exercise 3. 1.
For a start, you need a lot of waves to surf, whereas swimmers usually prefer calm water.
2.
Yeah, and lastly, swimming's cheaper than surfing.
3.
Even some people who can swim are afraid of water.
4.
Another possibility is that these days the sea can be very polluted and they may be afraid of getting ill.
Track 21. Unit 9. Listening.